Welcome back to the news at 10. The Kano state government has instructed all district heads to shun the annual Durbar organized by the Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Sanusi II, and instead celebrate the event in their respective emirates. The directive was contained in a statement issued by the chief press secretary to the governor, Abba Anwar, which read in part, all district heads from Karayet Emirates should attend Hawan Daushe with their first-class Emir Al-Haji Dr. Ibrahim Abubakar II. All district heads from Gaya Emirates should attend Hawan Daushe with their first-class Emir, Al-Haji Ibrahim Abdul Qadir, and those district heads from Kano Emirate are also directed to attend Hawan Daushe with their first-class Emir, Muhammadu Sanusi II. End of quote. The state government has, however, confirmed that Governor Abdullahi Ganduje will attend the Durbar in honor of the visiting president of Guinea at the Emir of Kano's palace on Monday. Earlier this year, the state government split the Kano Emirate into 5, a decision which was challenged by the Emir in court. There is need for national dialogue on the current security situation in Nigeria. That's according to elder statesman and senior advocate of Nigeria, Chief Afe Babalola. Chief Babalola told Channel Television's Ladi Akintola on our current affairs program, Newsnight, that there is need for the present administration to take lasting measure in ending the spate of violent crimes in the country.
Is it not correct that there's kidnapping? As I told you earlier, I only knew about it in the dictionary. It's not correct that there's corruption. Not correct that there's armed robbery, apart from kidnapping. It's not correct that life is becoming unsafe at home, on the road, on the farm. It's not correct that many farms have been totally destroyed by a group of business people called cattle rearers. When people are hungry, they become angry. When people are angry, they become violent. My dear brother, there is hunger in the land. There is poverty in the land. There is insecurity in the land. I am worried. I'm concerned. And everybody in my family is concerned. All of us in the university are also worried. We are concerned. All Nigerians are concerned, except those who are beneficiaries of the present problem, the present system.
You can watch the full interview with Chief Afe Babalola on Newsnight. It airs tomorrow, right here on Channel Television at 9 p.m. For more than a century, various companies have been set up to generate electricity in Nigeria. Today, the concerns about the quantity and quality of electric supply still persists. The United Nations estimates that more than half of families living in Nigeria still do not have stable power supply. In 2013, the power sector was unbundled with a hope to light up Nigeria. Now, the President Buhari administration has shown that it is ready, willing, and able to explore another alternative. As time, the plan is to work with Siemens to improve the electricity value chain. On the news tonight, to discuss the present and future possibilities in the electricity sector is Babajide Ogusanwo, Channel Television's information consultant. Babajide.
Good evening.
A table prepared before us. Thanks for joining us on the news at 10 tonight. We've talked about, well, we're talking electricity supply, electricity generation, electricity supply today. How difficult can it be? It's not just about setting an agenda now. It's how difficult can it be to provide electricity for Nigerians?
So have we gotten to the promised land? No, we haven't. But is this government making progress? The evidence suggests that, yes, we are. But today it's about sharing. And so I brought this for you so that you could have this. But tonight I would like to talk about 3 things. And listen carefully to this. The first is I'd like to talk about the significance of the Eid. I'm talking about the celebration. The second is what lessons can leaders learn from the Eid? And the third is when will Nigerians celebrate stable power supply? And because tonight we really have 3 categories of Nigerians. The first category are those that are watching us with public electricity, watching us and eating their meat with public electricity. The second category of Nigerians are those that are watching, eating their meat but on generators. And the third are people like you that have no meat, and that's why we have this. But on the significance of the Eid represents three things. What are these three things? The first thing it represents is tea. Now, what do I mean by tea when we're looking at the Eid? It represents trust. We're looking at how Abraham and Ishmael went to make that sacrifice, and the Eid represents trust. The second thing it represents is obedience, and that is obeying by Abraham obeying the message from God. And the third is promises. Keep your promises. And Abraham kept his promise, and eventually we have Ibrahim kept his promises, and eventually we have this. So it's trust, obedience, and promises. So I'd like to talk about, since we're talking about promises, let's look at the top promises the president made on electricity, since it's a season of fulfilling promises. And if you look at those top three promises that the president has made in 2019, if you look at that campaign manifesto clearly, we'll see and identify the things he had said. Number one on that list was that we're going to have an incremental power supply of 1,000 megawatt generation on the grid every year. That's the first promise we have in the manifesto. What is the second promise? The second promise is we are looking at an improvement in power generation from 7,000 megawatts to 10,000 megawatts in 4 years. That's the second promise the president made, which we can see in the manifesto. And what is the final promise, which is what Nigerians are really looking up towards? And that is a view to achieve 24/7 uninterrupted power supply within 5 years. So based on the promises of the government, we should expect uninterrupted power supply, hopefully, from 2024. Is the government on track to achieve that? There are challenges, but there's certainly going to be progress compared to where we are today. So clearly, the forecast is the days ahead, even though we may not be able to get to that level of power supply generation, but we're certain that it's going to improve.
Yeah, that's a lot of hope, though. But investors are concerned about the nation's electricity sector. How can we douse those concerns that they have?
You know, for investors, they really want higher returns on their capital. And so if we look at the amount of external capital that has come into Nigeria, 2014 to 2018, we'll notice that the telecommunications sector, for instance, has received over $3 billion in external capital. But the electrical sector, within 5 years, less than $500 million. So the challenge is clearly for external investors, the electrical sector doesn't look attractive. That is why Siemens has been called to be able to come in to make it more attractive by looking at all aspects of the value chain, working with the generation companies, the transmission company, and the distribution companies to be able to improve that value. And one insight we can get is let's take a look at the top three facts of the electricity sector, which shows some of the challenges that investors are bothered about. The first fact shows that currently, or before the privatization, we had only 3.3 million metered customers as at 2013. Today, we have 4 million meters, but that is still insufficient because we have 50 million families that should be metered. Only 4 million meters today out of 50 million meters that are required. In other words, only 8 out of 100 Nigerians have meters. That is the first concern that investors have. How do you get your money back in a nation where 92% of those that should be metered don't have meters? The second is the cost of public power, 26 naira per kilowatt hour. The countries that we look up to that have stable electricity supply, most of them have significantly higher tariffs. In other words, President Buhari isn't necessarily the problem. It is the structure of the reward system to investors. The final fact, which shows why investors are also concerned, is that today 1 megawatt of power can serve up to 500 families. However, we are not looking at incremental power supply, or rather, over the years, several governments haven't looked at incremental power supply. So today, even though we are aiming for 10,000, 11,000, 25,000 megawatts, we need to look at it from an incremental step. Again, if we're able to generate an additional megawatt, 1 megawatt of power supply can give us or can power up to 500 homes.
Well, we can talk about electricity from now until the lights go out, but we're not going to do that tonight. Thanks a lot, and thanks for bringing me dinner.
But in the final analysis, let's not forget, today is really about sharing. This is not just for you. We need to share to our neighbors, and whatever, if we can remember all of these numbers, remember trust, obedience, promises. The celebration today is a reminder that all leaders should fulfill the promises, and we've seen the promises of the electrical sector. But again, the forecast shows that we're going to be generating much more than we have done in the past.
Thankfully, you've looked into your board. Thanks again, Babajide.
The pleasure is always mine.
Chief Akintola Williams is a man of many firsts. He founded Nigeria's oldest indigenous accounting firm. He is the first West African member and fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. He's also co-promoter of the Nigeria Stock Exchange, co-founder of the Music Society of Nigeria, MUSON, among several other groundbreaking achievements. And now he's celebrating another milestone, attaining the age of 100. 100, I say again. Associates, family, and friends gathered in Lagos to celebrate the iconic man.
Three former heads of states, traditional rulers, and other distinguished guests joined family and friends at the Muson Center in Lagos for Mr. Akintola Williams' centenary celebration. Born on the 9th of August 1919 with little assistance, the celebrant insisted on walking to his seat to a standing ovation.
This great man that has touched Nigeria in so many ways, impacted the institutions that regulate our decency and best practice across many professions.
Leading the opening prayer, the senior pastor of the House on the Rock Churches, Paul Adefarasi, said the present generation of Nigerians should be grateful to have witnessed living legends like Mr. Akintola Williams.
As we celebrate your grace on Pa Akintola Williams, in the name of Jesus Christ, and amen.
In the first of the three toasts of the night, former head of state General Yakubu Gowon reiterated that Nigeria should be grateful to have the likes of Pa Williams. The second and third toast by his son, Mr. Shani Williams, and Dr. Christopher Kolade had similar tones.
We can say, all of us, with truth, with sincerity, and with total belief in what we say, that these 100 years that Mr. Akintola Williams has been here, we can say truthfully that everything he has touched has become better because he touched it.
Hardly is any birthday celebration complete without the cutting of the cake. That function was conducted by Senator Ibikunle Amosun and surrounded by the celebrants' children and grandchildren.
A happy 100th to Mr. Akintola Williams. As we heard on the news at 10, Aruna Quadri defends his Nigeria Open title in emphatic style with a 4-2 victory over Austria's Robert Gardos. That's the sports news. Please stay with us.